The views and opinions expressed in these historical letters that may contain vernacular used in the World War II era, the post-war era, and the Cold War era do not reflect the views and opinions of any of the individuals involved with this project, including, but not limited to, the podcast's creators. Morning, Jamie.
Good morning, Allison.
How are you this morning?
I am lovely. It is a lovely rainy day in southwestern PA.
Okay, we got the rain last night. We had these big rain bands coming across. It came across very quickly. It stormed. It made quite a lot of noise, and then it was gone.
No. My husband got up this morning and said, "I'll water the garden."
Yeah. I think Mother Nature is doing that today.
Yeah. But it is a lovely day, and we're at the time of this recording, it is summer. But we are going to be going back to the wintertime and Christmas.
Yes, that's correct. We are going to Christmas 1943, and this is really the first time, the first of many to come, in which Sweetie's going to document what the holidays are like back in this era. Now, these aren't the longest letters that she's ever going to write about the Christmas holidays, but at this point, last year in 1942, she had to miss Thanksgiving and Christmas. She was working at the base, so she didn't get home, so we didn't get that tale. Now, she just got married, so she's got the beginning of her own family in Ottumwa, and she's going to tell us how Christmas is going to play out. This morning, we have 3 letters from Sweetie to different parties, documenting all the way through to the end of 1943. So we're going to get started here with this letter to the Bolton family, her sister, Margaret, and all of their family, on December 18th, 1943. December 18th, 1943. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Bolton, and all the little Boltons. There were 3 packages in the mail. Yours was one of them. You know me and packages. I can never keep from opening them, but when Eagle Eye Louis saw how pretty it was, and the sparkly December 25th on it, he did just as the name implies, and kept a sharp eagle eye on it. The other 2 were from Lou's sister Elizabeth, and Joe and Marguerite, his brother and sister-in-law. He doesn't know it, but I saw him shaking them too. I'm sorry that we're going to be unable to have much Christmas, but maybe next year we'll be able to make up for the lack of this one. I hope. There was a notice in the bulletin saying that the fellows should be allowed Christmas Day off if their duties permitted. Now, will Lou get off? Even so, I don't think we'd be able to come, but if anything new develops, I'll let you know as soon as possible, until you hear differently. We won't plan on coming. Love, Sweetie. And so we get right into the first really short letter here to the Boltons, just indicating what the plans are so far. And at this point, she's still not sure if Lou's even going to be home for Christmas Day from the base over at NAS Ottumwa. But I love that they're starting to get Christmas presents in the mail.
Yeah, it's lovely. My mother will send Christmas presents in the mail. It seems to be making a comeback. People will send presents.
Right.
But it is so much fun to get stuff in the mail. My kids love it.
Sparkly. Oh, I can just imagine. Ooh, what's this?
She wanted to open it.
She did, but then it had written on it December 25th.
I like this too because we're getting to, she doesn't have too much contact with her older sister. So we don't see a lot of that. We don't see a lot of letters to them. And it's really sad because, we're getting to see and we're still in wartime. So Christmas is going to be different this year. So it's sad that her first Christmas is like this.
Yeah. I would hate to see Christmas stuck on a train or waiting at the station because the trains are packed. Might be best to stay home. But you know what I do like about this one? It just reminds me of snooping on presents when I was a kid. I don't know if you were this kid. I was. I would go around and look. I'm like, what am I getting this year? I don't know at what point I stopped believing in Santa Claus. To any children listening, Santa Claus is totally real, and it's not totally your parents putting things under the tree. But it was a young age, and I just remember thinking, there's things in the closets. I think I can shake things. I think I can... I was looking for what I was going to get.
You're awful.
Yeah, so I know there's some of us that looked, but now I don't really do that anymore because... It's good. I'm just grateful for anybody that sends any presents and the time spent with family. But as a kid, oh yeah,
Oh,
Yeah, I was
presents were the
sneaky looking around.
thing. And yeah, and
Hmm.
Sweetie's still very young. We
Hmm.
have to, and definitely
Yeah,
now Christmas. I know what you mean. I take way more joy watching my kids open
yeah.
presents than I do
Hmm.
getting any presents.
Yeah,
That
just
doesn't
seemed
mean that you guys should stop buying me presents. So
right, right. Hmm.
presents are still wonderful, but yeah, the older you get, the more that the family and the
Hmm.
time together matters.
Yeah.
But this was lovely. This was a lovely little note,
Yep.
and it's a lovely to see like we're coming into Christmas with
Hmm.
Sweetie and Lou's first
First
Christmas.
Christmas together.
Lovely to
Yeah.
see. And so, and
Mhm.
that is actually the next letter that we have. She talks about her Christmas Day.
Right. Is right after Christmas. So we do get the recount of what happened on Christmas. This letter is from December 28th of 1943. December 28th, 1943. Dear Jeanne, Lou answered your letter last night. Today I'll add my 2 cents worth. That was a nice letter. I think they should come a little more regularly, though. Christmas Day was a small one. My Christmas started early, though. On the 23rd, Lou brought me a bottle of Katie's perfume. Good-smelling stuff, too. On the 24th, Friday, I was just getting ready to go have my hair fixed when roses, red ones, were delivered at the door. I was so surprised. I had to put them in water right away, and I was late for my appointment. If that wasn't enough, I got home and found a little Christmas tree all decorated and lighted, all lit, with blue lights. He'd gone to Corey's to dinner, since I wasn't home, and so I went up there. Then we hurried home to wrap the few presents we bought, and took them up to the Coreys under their tree. We told Mrs. Corey to call us, and we'd come up to see A.L. in the morning. We woke up at 9 and decided at 9:30 we went up to open presents. The Coreys gave me a blue wool head shawl with a white yarn fringe, to Lou a shaving set, toilet stuff, soap, lotion, and powder. Betty gave us a Pyrex set, cups and casseroles. Mrs. Corey tried to find something, I don't know what, but since she couldn't find it, she hung an IOU on the tree. We've yet to get and find out what it is. If the perfume and roses weren't enough, Lewis gave me a gold identification bracelet, on the front K. Graham, on the back from Lou, 12/25/1943. It is sort of pink. The chain is very nice. I like it so much. He also got me a black chiffon and lace nightgown. Ooh, it's the wickedest thing you've laid eyes on. I've tried it on, and I find it will have to be taken up a little at the shoulders. The lace straps are too long, and it blouses at the waist. It's a honey. But you know me, I'd rather look at it than wear it. It kind of strikes me as how our Mr. Graham is casting aspersions at my flannel pajamas. Do you suppose it could be?
I know. I'm sorry. Like when I was reading this, I audibly giggled
Yep.
when he got her a little lacy negligee.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to me from this letter that she opened that up at the Corey's house.
That's what I'm taking from this, yeah.
Oh my
Mm-hmm.
goodness. But that's very cute.
Yeah.
Well, first he got her perfume.
He got her perfume,
And
followed by red roses.
I wonder if he was buttering her up to get the necklace.
You know, he's a romantic. He really is.
He really is.
And then what was the thing from the last episode? She thought, well, we're probably not even going to have a tree. I don't know how we'd get lights. Maybe we can borrow some from Lacona. She gets back from her hair appointment, and what does she find? He's got the tree up, and he's got blue lights on it.
Well, I think we can all agree. And I love how I love the little phrases that she used, and she calls the little nightie a honey. She's like, it's a honey.
Yeah, it's a honey.
I think that Lou is a honey.
Yeah, Lou is definitely a honey. And this also, one little note here, with the gold identification bracelet on the front K. Graham, this gets referred to, she was known by a lot of people also as K. And we don't see it all the time because her name is Catherine, spelled with the K, for those listening to the audio-only version. So I was reaching out to a family member of a friend of hers, and I was trying to figure out if they were actually the family member. And I said, well, you know, my grandmother's name was Catherine. She was known as Sweetie. And they went, okay. And I said, she also went by Kay. And they said, we once had a card from someone named Kay. on like an occasion, I think it was of their mother's wedding. And it was never signed a last name. They could never figure out who Kay was. So just from talking to them, they were able to then put the pieces together that we'd been talking about. Sweetie herself. So it was nice to decode that. But we get these little nicknames. So I just want to call it out every now and then. There's some dialogue she recounts where it's like, okay, that's her common name to a lot of other people.
Yes.
So, yeah, and the Coreys have some really nice gifts here. Just having Christmas at the Coreys, I can see it. Even though she has a tree at their little home in Ottumwa, you're going to go up the street because, Mrs. Corey's taking care of business up there.
Oh, that she had that place decorated and had breakfast.
Absolutely.
Like, she had stuff ready to go. And also she's got the kids.
Yeah.
And it's nice for Lou and Sweetie to have Christmas with, and I mean, the Coreys are pretty much family at this point.
Right. Yeah. They consider them family.
That's where they got married. So, yeah, but it seemed like a very lovely Christmas morning.
I had some bad luck, though. Curious. Men's store. Ordered a robe that I could give to Lou. It wasn't because I waited too long. Here's once the 11th hour Demarees cannot include me. It just didn't come. I didn't know that, though, until the 23rd. As soon as I found out it wasn't there, I called Des Moines to Jane Wildner, Junker's personal shopper. Told her the size, 3 or 4 colors, and she sounded as though she'd have no trouble in finding one, and she said that she'd send it special delivery so I'd have it in time. The 24th, Christmas Eve, I got a letter saying she couldn't find one. As a last resort, I started hunting an identification bracelet. I didn't know then that he'd bought one for me. I didn't find one I thought he'd like, so there was nothing for me to do but do as Mrs. C had done and put an IOU on the tree for him. If should come any day, and it will have to be his belated Christmas present. Today is his birthday, also the second half of his 48-hour liberty. I went to Ship Store this a.m. and found an identification bracelet identical to mine. I sent Jeanne downtown with it so it could be engraved, and I can pick it up tonight at 5 to take home to him. On the front, Louis S. Graham, 651 7440. On the back, from K. 12/28/43. Yeah, and she's doing the same thing here. We see also the some sort of identification number for her husband, and then she signs it from K as well with the date. Mrs. Corey has baked a cake for him, and we're going there to dinner. Afterwards, we're going to a farewell party out at the boathouse. It's for several of Lou's buddies who are being sent to another base. Lou gets a faraway look in his eye, and I'm afraid he wishes he could go too. I've got to press my dress, take a bath, go to Corey's, etc., etc. It's nearly time to lock up, so I'd better stop and gather up my belongings. Write again soon. Love, Sweetie, and Lou.
That was so lovely. I told you this time, I am a procrastinator. Just like Sweetie here. And so, like, I feel so bad that she really tried to get Lou his gift, and then... Yeah. But that's okay, because she was able to get the identification bracelet. One thing that I did want to, like, talk about was, I mean, I think that she definitely knows her husband. I think she does, and to see him get a faraway look in his eye, it just speaks so differently, I think, to the times that we are in now, that he wanted to go. Yeah. He wanted to go fight for his country. He wanted to go to war. And it forever will fascinate me, the fact that Iowa had so many people in this war. You know, you say over 50% of that legacy for the Civil War coming forward. Yeah. Now, of course, that's all over the place with just like the times, we call it the greatest generation. That willingness to serve, to go. Lou's from Pennsylvania. His brother's in the Army. Pennsylvania has a huge legacy of service, of course, as well. All the states really do. But they're surrounded by Iowans. And the people of Iowa just have that legacy coming up from the Civil War. 50% of the men enrolling in that war moving forward. All this family pressure, just an expectation. You're going. Not even a question. He gets a faraway look. Also, his home is far away. So he's got his buddies at the base. He's not near family like some of the other guys on the base who are serving from Iowa. Now they're going to leave and his family is away. So she's his 100%. She's his life. No wonder he's sending
all the roses and setting up the tree and spending time with the Coreys to get that sense of place, because he's really isolated outside of just her, because the rest of his family is not there, of course. Also, it's his birthday. So we get the bracelet, 12/28/1943. So that was his birthday. And that's why Mrs. Corey is baking the cake at the very end of the year. It's in celebration for him. So it's the December 20th.
It's a lovely, it's a lovely break from that turmoil of, of war.
Right.
And I mean, she has family war, everybody does. And she's very, very tied into this. And so like to hear and see like all these wonderful, like they spent Christmas together. They got each other gifts, and it's just lovely. And I think it really calls to what's important.
Right. Well, they get to spend Christmas together.
Yeah.
I don't know how many service members in 42, especially after Pearl Harbor, so 42, 43, 44, are able to be home with their loved ones. So at least he's on the base and he's getting to spend Christmas at home. But there's a lot of guys that while they're at home, that are going to be on the fronts in the various campaigns and the various theaters of the war, who are away from everybody else. And it just reminds us, it's every time it does this, it's somewhat shocking. I think you get the same effect, Jamie, which is, we're caught up in this domestic life. Like, oh, she's cooking for the first time. They just got married. And then the next paragraph is, he might be shipped out. And there's this looming background of World War II and this uncertainty that we just don't know what's going to happen. And she's just sensing something's coming.
Yeah. It's definitely coming through. Well, and then that brings us to our third letter.
It does, yeah. And this is from the last day, New Year's Eve. We have December 31st, 1943.
Ooh, I got tingles.
December 31st, 1943. Dear Margaret, Bill, Jeanne, M.A., and Christopher, it would seem that my family has the idea that when I got married, all the need for mail ended. Such an assumption is wrong, and I think you should all sit down and write to us, even M.A. Jeanne, your card was nice, Lou's birthday card, and the cash was unexpected but appreciated. Lou was so pleased that you'd write to him, he looks forward to your letters, gripes when you don't write, and he's as pleased as Punch when you do. Can we just pause for a moment and use the phrase pleased as Punch?
Oh, yes.
I love that one too. That one can sneak right by.
She has some like wonderful little phrases.
Yeah.
I just love them. And yes, pleased as Punch.
Marge and Bill, thank you too for your card. But along with the thanks, let me extend to us an invitation to your house. Lou's 48-hour leave begins at 5 o'clock Friday, January 6th, and he reports back to duty on Monday morning, January 10th at 6 or 7 o'clock. As we figured it, he has a 48 on Saturday and Sunday, once every 3 months or thereabout, and with luck, I should be able to get Saturday off. We could come either Friday night or Saturday morning. This is great that she's just inviting herself over. Though her dates
how
are
far away is her sister from?
Her sister is in Iowa. She's in the vicinity of Des Moines with Jeanne and near Lacona. So if she can get over to this area, so if we talk about Ottumwa, maybe by today's standards, an hour and a half drive, just to the west and then slightly north, because we're heading into the center of the state then for Des Moines. If she can get to Des Moines, she gets to see Jeanne. There's maybe an ability to drive like an hour south and get down to Lacona to see Chester and Laura. So it would be ideal.
So she's trying to get out of there.
She's trying to spend the weekend.
And to see her for the weekend.
And it's close to the holidays. So I could imagine how this goes. Well, it's close enough to the holidays. I just, one of the things that always bothers me after Christmas, and it bothers my mom a lot too, there's 12 days of Christmas. We sing the song every year. And it seems as if the world is like, once December 25th is over, that's it. Trees go down and we start planning for New Year's. Christmas goes into January for the 12 days. So we would like to really see more people appreciate like the season and visiting family during, those 12 days. We could really extend this out. Already the store's extended out to October. in preparation. So why don't we just add on the other 11 days of celebration at the end? I don't quite know. But yeah, the reason of the 12 days, of course, the kings aren't there yet. I will do this at nativity scenes, especially at my parents' house. It takes a while for the kings to get to the manger. Right. So if you ever see a nativity scene, public service announcement to everyone, and it's before Christmas and the kings are like right there, it's public duty to move them away from the scene because these guys aren't there yet and they don't show up till day 12. So you can slowly, there's actually some sets that do this, that instruct you to slowly move them closer over the course of the 12 days.
Allison,
and then they get there.
Allison, you've done this.
Of course.
So now I'm never going to look at another nativity scene.
Yep.
The same way. We're going to be like, the king shouldn't be there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it's
going to be insufferable.
Before Christmas, when the baby is already in the manger, I'm like, hey, spoiler alert. You know?
So bad.
Come on.
And see, I'm the kind of person who will be this attentive, who will be like, no.
Right. This is now going to bother everybody in the podcast. I hope so. I hope this starts a movement to actually like make it more of like a living thing where like the morning of you put the baby in there and then 12 days later you put in the kings and you move them around.
I mean, well, we have advent calendars. We open up one per day.
Yeah.
I don't sit there and open up my advent calendar like, you know, like right. We don't. So now,
yep. Now you're going to look away. Like, I don't know. Spoiler alerts all over the place.
Never going to look at any nativity scene the same way again. All right.
So anyway, yep. We'll continue on, but
continue.
Things to think about for this year's Christmas season.
You see, it's like this here. They're cracking down on me, as well as all civil service employees on leave. I'll be lucky to get off on Saturday for a whole day. Lou so seldom has leave on Saturday and Sunday, when we can be together or go anywhere, that we thought we should take advantage of it. Besides, they're shipping a lot of boys out, and we never know when Lou's name will be on the next draft. There's a big draft of men going out in January. He'll be lucky to escape it, and if he does, I doubt if he'll be here another month more. Train connections are bad from here home, and since Lou has never been in Des Moines, we thought we'd like to go there. We could see Jeanne as well as you folks and your kids, and maybe we could get the folks to come up there too. Of course, it depends upon the weather, the cash fund, the possibility that I might not get the day off, and if Lou hasn't been shipped out by then. I thought, though, that perhaps I should write and see what you thought about it. Do write and tell me, won't you? Lou's orders could come, and he'd have to leave in nothing flat. However, we've started a fund or cash, and if there is enough money saved by the time he gets his order, I'll get to go with him. He might be sent to New York to a special training for a fighter squadron. That would mean that he'd be there for a month or 2 or 3, and it wouldn't be but an hour's drive from his folks' house, so I could go there. He might be sent to San Diego, Seattle, or Norfolk. Either of the 3 would be to a receiving ship, and of course there would be no way of telling how long he'd be there before he went to sea. I've got to go now. But do write, and tell us what is what. Love, Sweetie.
Yep.
And I understand, of course, that you won't have any kind of real schedule or like, oh, you're going to be out and such, everything is it just happens as it does, but that's still just, it's a scary thing.
Yeah. No, it really is a scary thing. I mean, just to think, here's more celebrations. We're getting to the end of the year. And maybe the reason that they're not able to meet up is she might have to stay back and work at the base. And then who knows where he would go. The fact that it could change so rapidly, she's talking about plans on December 31st for January 6th. And she's saying things could still change in the course of a week.
Mm-hmm.
And he might get shipped out. So they're really uncertain. So for that level of uncertainty, to not know what's going on within a week, it tells me there's a lot of men moving around the base at the holidays. Probably more so than usual. But at least she got to have her wedding. She got to have her family there. She got to have her Christmas there. At least that happened without interruption at all.
And when I feel uncertain about things,
mm-hmm.
I often will just plan for what I can.
Yeah.
And that seems to what she's doing is like, well, if this happens, we'll do this. And if this happens, we'll do that. And mm-hmm. if we're here, then we're close to his family. So she's rationalizing everything and looking at the perks and like what, and just trying to like continue, which is great in such an uncertain time. But I have to tell you, I kind of feel the apprehension.
Yeah.
Through the letters.
Yeah.
You can feel where she's at, and she's young, newly married.
Yep.
So, and like this, and it's the holidays.
Oh, yeah.
And oh my gosh, it's the end of 1943.
End of 1943. We're heading into 1944 in the next episode. But before we do that, I wanted to take some time at the end of this episode because we've had the Grahams come in rather suddenly.
Yes.
And just in the space of a few episodes, Sweetie met Lou, voice with the smile in the voice. And then 3 months later, she's married. And then it's post-marriage, here's what happened at the wedding, and we're at Christmas, and into 1944. And that's all really great. We're very excited. We're very happy for Sweetie. Sweetie's very happy for Sweetie as well, as is Lou. But I wanted to take some time because we had a number of episodes to really get used to the Demaree family. I wanted to stop for a moment while we have this opportunity before we dive into 1944 to start to talk about the Graham family. And to give us the cast of characters that we have here. Now, we talked a little bit about the Graham family briefly in the last couple of episodes, but we're going to do a bit more of a deep dive into the Graham family here, and we fortunately have a lot of surviving photos of the Grahams. So, it was mentioned in the previous episodes that the Graham family is around Philadelphia. They're in Delaware County, or Delco, as it's affectionately called in this area. They're living right now in an area outside the city. But the family came over from Europe in the 1800s, Scottish line by way of Ireland, into Philadelphia. And the first ancestor to come over in the 1800s was named William. And William settled in Philadelphia with his wife, Eliza McBride. So you can hear the Irish name McBride right there as they come over. And he's going to have a son. He's going to have a number of children, but he's going to have a son named Samuel. And Samuel is Lou's father. So there's only a couple of generations in the country prior to Lou himself. Now, Samuel Graham is going to marry Sidney Bonsall Lewis, and this was mentioned in the last episode. She's the one that has the line that married into the Matlack line, which is that big revolutionary line. So her line is going to be in the United States for some time, a lot prior to the Graham line. But Samuel Graham is going to marry Sidney Bonsall Lewis, and they're going to have 4 children, one of which is Lou. So we have some photos here of the family to go through, and I'm going to bring them up one by one. And we're actually going to rewind the clock quite a great amount of time. It's not often that too many families have access to a lot of photos from, I'd say, like prior to 1920, 1910. But the Grahams had done pretty well. And the Lewis family was well established. So they had the money to be able to get the photos. So let's start here with a picture of Samuel in his younger years, I would say. Okay, there we go. So he's a dashing gentleman.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Samuel.
And this is Lou's father.
This is Lou's father. Now, Samuel was born in 1875. So this looks to be about him when he's about 20 years old or so. And so we can date this photo somewhere around the turn of the century. So it's around 1895 or 1900. He's got his nice suit on. Beautiful tie. But you can see the hair is kind of like Lou's hair from the previous photos. And then a picture also from about that time period of Sidney. So we'll bring that up here. And she looks quite regal. And she's got quite the expression on her face.
Oh my goodness.
She's very dressed up. Her hair is impeccable. These hairstyles.
And this is Lou's mother.
This is Lou's mother, Sidney. She is an intense woman.
I'll tell you right now, Lou got a lot of good hair genes.
He did get a lot of good hair genes. Yeah. This takes time to put your hair up like that. But I figure this is probably when she's about 25 or 30. And Sidney was born in 1881. So we can date this photo sometime probably around 1910. 1905, 1910. Because she's at least over 20 in this photo. I wouldn't think she's over 30. So it's somewhere around that time period. Now, 1910 is when the first of Lou's siblings is going to be born. And what's really awesome is we actually have some surviving photos of the kids. Now, it would be difficult to tell who these individuals are, but thankfully they were noted on the photos, so we don't have to guess, and we have their ages. So let me bring up this picture here. All right.
Oh my goodness.
Right. Now, if you notice on the left of the photo, you see the woman in the left-hand side. That's Sydney.
Yeah, you can tell that's Sydney from the previous
photo. Yeah, and it has to be a winter photo. Everybody's very much in winter jackets and hats here. But I've got the photo in hand, and it notes Sammy is down front. Now, Sammy is in front of the mother, wearing the cap, smiling. He's the one that was born. He was named for his father, so that's Samuel Graham, or Sammy Jr., and he was born I'm sorry, he's not absolutely the oldest. The oldest is Joe. Joe's not pictured. Okay. Samuel Graham was born January 19th, 1916. So that's Sammy Jr. In the middle is Lou himself. Yeah. So in the baby carriage is
in
Lou
the pram.
Graham.
In the pram, or whatever that thing is. But yeah, it like, I wish we had a really good picture of that, because that just looks, my goodness.
Yeah.
So that's Lou in the middle.
And on the right is Elizabeth. That's his sister.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then not pictured is Joe.
Not pictured as brother Joe, Joseph. So just to put the dates out there. So Joseph is born in 1910. And then the next one born is going to be Elizabeth in 1913. And then Sammy, there on the left, 1916. And Lou is born in 1919. So she's having children in the span of the 1910s. And you can see the age ranges in the photo. All right.
That's a lovely picture.
It is a lovely photo. I'm just glad that one survived, that we get to see that. We also have another one of them as children. So I'm going to go ahead. It's fast forwarding in time a little bit. So I tried to get these in a progression so we could see the family that way. All right, here we go. So we've got Louis at 4 years old. So there's Lou. There's his expression that we're starting to get used to seeing. He's even got the little sailor stripes on his collar.
Oh my gosh.
So
a harbinger about to come.
Little prophetic moment there. I love the expression on his face. The slightly confused expression.
And you can see his grayed hair.
Yep.
I mean, he's had grayed hair his whole life.
Yeah. Yeah. But I just love, like, that expression never changes.
So who's in the middle? What's that say in the middle?
So in the middle, that's Sammy. He's 7 at this time. So there's the brother. And then we can see Elizabeth on the right, slightly older. And again, Joe is the only one MIA from these photos.
And it looks like, and he's older.
He is. He was born in 1910. So if Elizabeth is 10 here and she was born in 1913, he would have been 13 at the times. He's a teenager. He's probably
he doesn't want to take.
He's too cool for these photos.
Right. Exactly. Yes. Or he might have been taking the photos. I don't know.
Yeah,
because he wasn't in the first one. He might have taken that too. But if his mom would be okay with him holding a camera,
right.
But you can kind of see, like, it, and it's cool to see the background too.
Yeah, we get a little bit of the background. We get the wire fence.
You can see the light here above her head, the street light.
Yeah.
That's cute. And it looks too like maybe this is a little chillier. They're wearing jackets and stuff. But yeah. But this is also like, so this is stuff you don't typically get.
No, especially usually get a lot of very posed pictures right in front of backdrops. To have it out in the yard, where they're like, hey, let's bring a chair out and let's take this picture here. Not typical, which means they had access to money. They were able to do this at home.
Well, if you look at the background of that fence, that's also in the previous picture.
Right. Yeah.
So they probably, like they had a camera at home. That's crazy.
Yeah. And I do suspect these are photos from Philadelphia at the time. Yeah. The homes are close together if we're looking at the background there. Closer than they'd be out in the suburbs. Then we're going to fast forward a little bit of time. And by the way, all these photos are going to be posted on the website. Also on our Instagram, if you want to follow Sweetie on Instagram. All the photos are getting posted over there. It's easy to find. Just look up Love Sweetie Podcast on Instagram. And then we're going to go to one of the few color photos we have from the time. So this is of Lou. I had to share this because I was like, oh, we haven't put this one on on the website yet. How dashing. And this is almost a match to the main Sweetie photo that we use a lot. And by the way, I was looking back at that photo, Jamie, that photo is dated 1943. So I wonder, remember we were talking about the glamour shot to David?
Mm-hmm.
I am suspecting that the color photo is the glamour one. And this is basically his glamour photo.
This is his glamour shot.
Yeah, for sure. This is a great
Well,
one.
I mean, it's just a lovely picture.
Mm-hmm.
The times like that my grandmother, you see kind of like stuff like this.
Yeah.
But it's just it's classic.
Yeah.
It seems like there's like a dignity and just
yeah. Yeah.
It's something, it feels
something about the photos from back then is there's like a discipline to them.
Yes.
That we don't see as much today. Maybe we're just in too much of a hurry and they're very focused on these.
Well, they didn't have very many opportunities.
Right. Yeah.
I can take 20 pictures of myself right now.
Right.
I do that all the time.
Yeah.
But it I don't know. It just seems like there's this I don't know. But I really love the photos. Oh gosh, get on the website and look at some of these wonderful photos.
All right, so I'm going to bring up one we've seen before, but this is just as a reminder because we have to at least show Joe and Lou.
Okay, there's Joe.
Yep, there's Joe. I really think he has the same expression as the actor who played the father on Mary Poppins. He's the same one that was in Bedknobs and Broomstick. That's Broomsticks, that same actor. He's got that kind of facial structure. So if you're listening to the audio, that's the facial structure of Joe Graham. And here he is in the Army uniform. And then, of course, Lou in the Navy uniform, realizing the earlier photo where he was wearing the sailor stripes as a kid.
The background kind of looks a little similar to some of the other photos. It does.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's the same place.
It probably is. By now they'd be in Delaware County. But yeah, we have some photos of those buildings. We'll save them for another time. The house is not there anymore. I believe it's a Dunkin' Donuts now, the property where the Graham family home was. At least we know exactly where it was, though.
Well, at least it's not a Tim Hortons.
I'm gonna have to go over there and get a donut and just be like, I'm here on this ground. So, yeah.
Donut grounds. You can dump out a little coffee.
Yep.
But yes, I do. I'm glad we got to see Joe.
We got to see Joe. And I thought that was a really great photo to bring up because we basically have the matching photo here. And it must have been a series that was done. Because here's also Lou in his uniform, but this is Elizabeth that he's standing next to. So we get to see Elizabeth.
Maybe he took pictures with this. Oh.
Mm-hmm. We can see the same backdrop.
That is.
Yeah.
She's just lovely.
She's lovely. Absolutely. All right.
I like her dress.
I do like her dress too. Now we get to see the elder Grahams, a little older by the time we get to the 40s. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything here. We have a picture here of Joe again, and this is going to be with Sydney in the 40s. So she has again, there's that intense look on Sydney's face. And Joe actually has a very intense look on his.
Yeah. Well, maybe it seems like his mother was a little serious.
Yeah, he can't joke around as much.
No, and she has these, which comes from this, which comes from the frowning. And she did have kind of a stern look in her younger picture. So maybe she's just a little more serious.
Yeah. We're going to find that out about Sydney. She is going to be tougher. A bit tougher. Where Laura's quiet, I think we have, and just has that quiet gentleness to her. Sydney's more stern.
Well, so what you're saying is that where Laura didn't get her dining chairs for 20 years, Sydney would have had those things.
She would not have tolerated Chester staring at pieces of wood for 20 years and not building with chairs.
He had to think about it.
He had to think about it. She'd be like, go buy them right now. Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
so this is Lou's mother, which
This is
seems
Lou's
to
mother.
be the antithesis of what Lou is.
Mm-hmm.
Jovial and personable and quite kind and lovely and considerate.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to say she's not, but she definitely seems like a little bit more
There's
of
it's a
stern
tougher character for sure.
Yeah.
As
But
it
it is
comes
nice
in.
to see Joe too from this angle as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, we get to see the side profile.
Oh yes.
We get to see a little more here because we have to see as well. Then of course Samuel, and here we go.
Oh.
So this is elder Samuel sitting out on the front porch. We get to see the side profile for him.
His hair.
The hair.
I mean, I know they all probably style their hair the same,
Mm-hmm.
Or that's the style of the time, but they all definitely have the same hair.
Yeah.
You know.
Right. And we have to remember he was born in 1875, so this photo is probably around 1940. So he's in his 60s at this point.
He looks very good.
He looks pretty good for 60s, and so is Sydney in that other photo.
And this isn't
Mm-hmm.
a mean thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just simply something I noticed. They have very large ears. And I just noticed that this is definitely a trait that he shares with his sons. They have a bigger ear.
There are some pronounced traits. His nose is actually big too. I think
They're
Joe got that from
very handsome men.
Handsome guy, yeah, but
Handsome
very pronounced.
very handsome guys, but they do have their ears.
And we can see the genetics coming through. We can from the photos.
The family resemblance.
Yeah, all right.
But that was really, I mean, that's not something you get at that time. Like it's to those candid, casual photos.
But we have a few more here.
Oh my goodness, this is fun.
Yeah. So I thought this is a good episode to take the time before we head into 44 here. This is a more casual photo of them in the living room in their parlor.
Casual in his 3-piece suit and her pearls.
Right. Yes. Casual for the grams. For sure. And then in the background, we see some photos. Actually, the two smaller photos that are down by the vase behind them actually have those photos as well. And then we see the photo in the middle behind with the frame, and that's Sammy's photo in the background. And there's a reason that there's a bit of a display there with the flowers, and we'll get to that in a moment. But yeah, we have Samuel looking over at Sydney, both reading, having a nice evening of reading. At this time, of course, no televisions. This is going to be what they're going to be doing. And then
he looked like he was smoking too.
Yeah, I mean, everybody was smoking.
Oh, everybody did, but yeah.
Then, yeah, and we have them. Finally, we get they must have been told, "Hey, you got to look at the camera." So they do.
Aww.
So he's like, "Okay, let's hold hands. I'm gonna smile," and then you see Sydney's face.
She's like, "Hands, wait."
I was reading. Excuse me. Yeah.
That's yeah. But it did. Maybe that's where Lou gets it from. His daddy.
Yeah.
He definitely kind of looks like him in this picture.
Oh yeah, he does. Yeah, you can see the family resemblances. But one thing that we were missing at a certain point, we have the picture of Joe and Lou in the sailor uniform in the army. And we have the picture of Lou and Elizabeth. What we don't have is the photo of Sammy. And that's because, unfortunately, Sammy is gone at this point. So they have lost a child, and that's why we see that display in the back. So this is what was behind where they're sitting. And Sammy passed away in 1935. So he dies, unfortunately, what that would be, I think, he was born in 1916, so he was 19. So again, these two photos on the left, we do have the two boys sitting together, but they had basically this area of tribute to the son that they'd lost. And that's why we don't hear about Sam in the letters, and we don't see him in any of the photos, because by the time Sweetie meets with Lou, Sammy's been gone for about 9 years at this point, which was hard. And it also might be part of the reason behind Sydney's toughness.
Yeah.
She's lost a child at this point.
Losing a child is the most stressful thing that a human can endure. Yes. Yeah.
So we don't know too much about Sammy, only from what we've been told. Unfortunately, he just, if you only live to 19, there's only so much recorded and letters going back and forth and opportunity to really get to know them. We can see from those early, that's why I thought it was important to show those early childhood photos as well, because we get to see him in those when he was with his siblings. And he has the one look, which I really like, if we go back to that one photo of the 3 children together, not when they were babies. But it really now brings it full circle when we look at this photo, is the expression in the face. He would have been fun. We can just tell. Where Lou is wearing the expression he's going to wear continuously, Sammy there in the middle, bit of a troublemaker expression.
Yes. Well, he was the youngest, correct?
Yeah.
He was the baby.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, he was 7 at the time. So
birth order does have an effect on personality.
Mm-hmm.
And birth order does have an effect on like how, I mean, older children parents tend to be more strict.
Yeah.
And adhere to rules and not be as compromising. Then they get to the younger one and they're like, sure.
Yeah. Yeah. The younger ones here.
What's the problem?
And you know, that's interesting. Lou's the youngest of his family and Sweetie's the youngest of hers. So they have that in common. But Sammy was also on the younger side. He was the third of the 4 children.
He was third.
Yeah.
He was third. You get to that point and you get a little bit more lenient.
Yeah.
I know at least my mother did.
Mm-hmm.
But so he definitely looks like he might have been a little bit of a character.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm sure he would have had fun palling around with Jeanne and Sweetie and everybody else, you know, had he had the chance to do so. But it's nice just to give this little moment at the end of 1943 to a person that we're barely going to hear about, let alone have any reference to in the letters, and sort of close out the year with that, with introducing the Graham family here. And as we get to know them more, hopefully some people can have some images in their minds as to who these individuals are. Now, Sweetie's not going to get to meet them immediately. They're over in Pennsylvania, and she's all the way out in Iowa. But you can imagine what a family, you know, that's used to having everybody from around the Philly area is thinking, with all of a sudden little Lou going out to Iowa, falling in love and saying, I've got this girl, and him being a total romantic. And him, especially if he's being a romantic to the point where he's buying roses and putting up the tree, you know, he's writing a lot back home to his parents about how much he loves this girl, you know, and probably the phrase, I have to suspect at some point I'm going to bring her home with me. And Sweetie seems to be very aware of this. So
lots of exciting things. It feels like there's lots that's coming up.
There's lots that's coming. Yeah. But that's it for the photos. I know we went through a bunch of them, but we get to really meet the Grahams here in a moment. And then in next week's episode, we are going to resume Chester's back in next week's episode.
The good doctor.
Who knows what he could be using to drink his Pepsi with this week? No. For those that missed it, go back to that episode. I think it was episode 13.
You should listen. I mean, if you haven't heard that one, Chester. Chester.
Chester's back to start out.
He is my comic relief, and he doesn't even realize it.
Yeah. He's laughing up there, wherever he is, about all of it. But yeah, so thank you so much to everybody. Hey, leave some comments in the videos about what you're enjoying, you know, what you'd like to see more of. We'd love to see the feedback. Please leave reviews if you could, if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, so we can start, you know, seeing some more downloads coming through. We love to see people really responding to the podcast. You know, it's growing, which is great. And then, of course, on YouTube, like, share, and subscribe. I looked at the stats. 60% of the people who listen to the videos are not subscribed to the podcast. Hey, everyone. Please subscribe to the podcast
so that you can every Sunday get your coffee.
Right.
And learn about what Sweetie's up to this week.
Yep. And we're heading into 44. It's going to be a big year. So
this is going to be, I'm very much looking forward to this.
But that's it for this week.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
discouraging world, and the skies are not cloudy all day. Home, home on the range, where the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the skies are not cloudy